Paolo Banchero is officially upgraded to questionable. His return appears to be coming Friday. How he will set the Magic back in place today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is December 5th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic Media since the 2012 season. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, Paolo Banchero officially upgraded to questionable. It appears that his return is coming Friday, just in time for that NBA Cup game on Tuesday, as the Magic take on the Miami Heat on Friday. In a preview of that game on Tuesday, we'll talk plenty more about that game. But why Paolo Banchero is going to set the Magic right. The one big way, the one big weakness that has finally caught up to the Magic, that Paolo Banchero, just his presence, will correct. We'll talk about that. Plus, the Magic shooting problem has a new dimension. We'll get to that and perhaps some rotation decisions the Magic should make. We'll get to all that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day by being one of our Orlando Magic dailies, one of our everydayers. That means you are listening first thing in the morning. That means you're listening. We're part of your regular podcast rotation. That means we are part of your everyday, your first listen of the day. We truly appreciate everyone who has made the Locked On Magic community so great. We are nearing 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you have not subscribed on our YouTube page, let's just get there. It's a nice little feather in my cap. It's a vanity project. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I appreciate all of you. And we appreciate that you've helped make the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network. The Locked On Podcast Network, it's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. After, I want to say obfuscating updates on his recovery, but after 3 weeks, it appears the Orlando Magic are set to be whole again. It appears at long last, the Orlando Magic will have their full complement of players. They will have everybody available to them. They will be whole again, minus Mo Wagner, for the first time in 3 weeks. Paolo Banchero was officially upgraded to questionable on the Orlando Magic's injury report with that left groin strain. It appears he is on track to play in Friday's game, and certainly this would suggest he's at least going to play in Sunday's game at New York. Essentially, I am here to report and here to say Paolo Banchero is back. And that's a good thing. Despite what some of the people in the national media want to say and want to talk about and want to poke holes in this whole project, the Orlando Magic are a better team with Paolo Banchero. And we've talked over the course of the last few weeks, even when the Magic were winning, that what they've been doing lately would have happened with or without Paolo Banchero. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Magic's offense more specifically here in a little bit. That all this stuff that we've seen happen, that ball was already rolling down the hill. And yeah, the Magic have taken care of some bad teams. They've done some really good things. But the last 2 games certainly showed us, really the last 3 games, showed us how much the Magic miss Paolo. There's just too many moments where the offense gets stagnant and the offense kind of grinds to a halt and needs just a tough shot maker. Just needs someone who's just a consistent gravity well, a consistent force to create things. I'm not here to say Paolo Banchero fixes every problem. Like, yes, he has a tendency to slow the ball down, and all the critics and all the Magic legends like Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady, who spoke on NBC's broadcast last week during the Magic Sixers game, everyone who says that Paolo needs to make sure he enters this team and keeps the ball moving, doesn't stop the ball, doesn't hold the ball, doesn't let the defense get set. All that stuff is fair criticism that I think Paolo has made tremendous strides on. But again, before the injury, Paolo Banchero was doing just about everything that this team was asking for. Just frankly was doing everything that this team was asking for. He's averaging only 21.7 points per game, and the shooting is certainly still an issue. But he's shooting a career best 53% from the floor, or 53% on 2-point field goals, and his 57.3% true shooting percentage is the highest of his career. More of his shots are coming in the paint than ever before. Only 25.8% of his field goal attempts come from between 10 feet and the three-point line, the lowest rate since his rookie year. And by the way, Banchero still 7th in the league in free throw percent and free throw attempts with 9.3 attempts per game. If you take out that 1-4 start, which was not a good start for Paolo or for anybody, Banchero was averaging 23.5 points per game, 9.2 rebounds per game, and 5.3 assists per game, while shooting 52.9% from the floor and 77.4% on 8.8 free throw attempts per game. Here was the kicker. For the first time really in his career, all those, not advanced numbers, but all those on-off numbers that people like to cite to say that Franz was better than Paolo, the Magic had a plus 2.7 net rating with Banchero on the floor, which at the time of his injury, not so much now, because Magic have won some games and won some big games, trailed Jalen Suggs and Tristan da Silva. Orlando's 115.3 offensive rating with Paolo on the floor was 1 point better than the team's average before Banchero's injury. Now the Magic are like 116, 117. So we will see if these numbers translate. And it's not going to necessarily translate all in one game. But the point I want to make about Paolo's return and why Paolo's return is going to be so good is that it's going to set the lineup right. If you feel like the Magic have been getting off to some slow starts lately, you are not wrong. The Magic have been getting off to slow starts lately because their starting lineup, the second most used lineup in the season, 96 minutes, has really struggled. In 96 minutes across 10 games, the starting lineup of Jalen Suggs, Desmond Bane, Franz Wagner, Tristan da Silva, Wendell Carter has a minus 10.1 net rating. Minus 10.1. With a 105.6 offensive rating and a 115.7 defensive rating. Since Paolo's injury, and again, the majority of their games have come since all of their games have come since Paolo's injury, I believe, all 96 minutes. Since Paolo's injury, in 91 minutes, it's at minus 10.3 still. As good as the Magic have been, a big reason why the Magic have played so well is Anthony Black took a major leap this year. Anthony Black stepped up to the plate, and the Magic's bench and their bench groups and their bench lineups were playing exceptionally well. Because Orlando's starting lineup is still the best lineup in the entire league. Like, just having however minutes per game that the Magic's starting lineup with Paolo Banchero, Jalen Suggs, Desmond Bane, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter, however many minutes per game they get of that group together, they're going to win those minutes. They're going to dominate those minutes. In 101 minutes, still relatively small sample, but we're going to give it to them. In 101 minutes across 9 games, the Magic's main starting lineup has a plus 19.3 net rating, 122.4 offensive rating, 103.1 defensive rating, championship level stuff. And we've been hinting and talking about this throughout the early part of the season, even when the team was struggling, even when the team wasn't winning games. We said it ain't the starters' fault. As much as Desmond has struggled, as much as Paolo was struggling with a shot, the starters weren't the reason why the Magic were losing games. And so what Paolo's return is going to do is it's going to move Tristan da Silva back to those bench groups. So you have another scorer off the bench with Anthony Black being who Anthony Black is, with Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner paired together, or Paolo Banchero and Desmond Bane paired together, with one of those two starters, with Goga Bitadze now playing at a much higher level, with all the potential for the rotation changes I want to talk about in our third segment. Paolo's return sets everybody in more comfortable roles. Now, look, it is a next man up league, and you have to find your way, and this Magic team, credit to them, found their way. And they found their way, they found their rhythm in ways that they were going to regardless, just because of playing together and getting more time under their belt. It's a long season. It takes a while. Preseasons are weirder now. It takes a while to kind of get your feet under you. And the Magic got their feet under them with Paolo on the bench. And look, Paolo may need a game or two to kind of really get himself going and really get the feel back. But the fact of the matter is, every statistical indication from this season, at least, is that the Magic are going to be much better with Paolo Banchero. And that this is the kind of thing that could help the Magic maintain this leap they've made and perhaps make another one. Because like I said a few days ago, I believe the Magic are going to come back home at the midpoint of the season from their Europe trip, first or second in the East. That's how good I think this team can be. And frankly, the last 3 games, really last 2 games with someone in the Detroit game as well, the Magic have started to waver from their process and waver from who they can be and still be good enough to win the games. Now you're just going to have a lot more talent and everyone's going to be in more comfortable roles. No one's going to be asked to do more than not necessarily more than they're capable of doing, because obviously guys filled in well. But now everyone's going to get a lot more comfortable. As long as they kind of build cohesion and do that. And I have no reason to believe that Paolo won't slide in perfectly and help elevate this team to another level. The rotation is finally set right. Now we'll get back to the rotation, maybe some of the changes the Magic should make in the statistical backing of those changes. But first, we got to talk about the shooting problem, because Paolo Banchero ain't fixing that. Maybe not entirely. Why shooting is still the issue for the Magic, but maybe not the way you think. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. The season is heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun, because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. Look, there are nights when your team stresses you out. God knows the Magic stressed everybody out on Wednesday. Let DoorDash become your post-game therapy, because sometimes you just have to have that dessert to wash away that tough loss. We've all been there. I've been there. We've all been there. If the group chat says pull up, DoorDash, make sure you show up prepared. Snacks, cups, even a phone charger for the friend who's always at 2%. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season delivered right to your door. DoorDash in your bag all season long. We want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Stay tuned Monday. We got a pretty big announcement coming from the Locked On Podcast Network. We're all very, very excited about it. We'll leave that as a deep tease. We'll check that out on Monday's episode of Locked On Magic. But the Magic's offense is humming. Like, it's still 9th in the league in offensive rating. He had a bad offensive game on Wednesday, but the Magic are still in probably a top 10 offense in the league. And what was frankly incredible about Wednesday's game is that the Magic were playing so poorly on offense, and then all of a sudden, 27 points in the last 8 minutes of the game. If there's one thing that we know about really good offenses is they can put together these devastating runs. They can put together these moments of sheer brilliance that allow them to win games even if they don't have their best stuff. And the Magic don't want to get caught flipping the switch. They don't want to do that. But the fact of the matter is that this team can. Like this team is going to find a pocket of 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, maybe 9 minutes, maybe the whole quarter, where they just absolutely devastate teams on both ends of the floor. That's what happened against the New York Knicks a few weeks ago. That's what happened against the Spurs late in that game. And obviously they just started too late. Their defense didn't really round completely into form. They can't survive just based off their talent alone. I think that's the big takeaway from this week. But the Magic do have the talent to be this devastating team. But look, we're not playing against an opponent. We are playing against the standard. We're playing against, well, what's this going to look like against the Oklahoma City Thunder? What's this going to look like against the New York Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Toronto Raptors now, I guess, the Detroit Pistons, the Houston Rockets, the Denver Nuggets, the Minnesota Timberwolves? The standard now is comparing it to a championship team. And we cannot pretend, even though the Magic have a top 10 offense, that games like the ones we've seen the last 3 nights, where the Magic had to kind of get back to their defensive roots and play like they did last season, and they got to have that in their back. They're going to have to do that a few nights. This team is still liable for these just bafflingly bad shooting games because the Magic are a better shooting team. I'm not going to sit here and tell you otherwise. The Magic are a better offensive team. I'm not going to sit here and tell you otherwise. The Magic still have a shooting problem. And it's not necessarily about three-point shooting. The Magic don't shoot jumpers. Like, literally, they don't shoot jumpers. Now, this could be the analytics dream. The Magic are essentially free throw line and layups. And those are the two most efficient shots in the game. If you get a lot of layups and a lot of free throws, you're going to, Magic shoot 80% on free throws. The Magic are, getting your shots at the brim are supposed to be the easiest shots in the game. This is how it's supposed to be, right? This is how you're supposed to play. Like, these are the shots an offense is trying to create. But we all know the playoffs are different. It'll be harder to get to the foul line. It'll be harder to get out in transition. And you got to be able to make these in-between shots. You got to be able to make open threes when you get them. You can't be missing threes the way the Magic missed threes in the last 3 games. And so this will be something to watch the rest of the season. And certainly there's a lot of people already watching it because the Magic are one of the worst jump shooting teams in the league. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Orlando is still 24th in the league in three-point field goal percentage. Again, we'll take that over what we saw last year. They're shooting 34.3%. They're not relying on three-point shooting. They're 26th in the league at 32.5% attempts per game. They're not trying to take a lot of threes. And so a relatively poor percentage, not the end of the world. They're going to have to make some eventually. They're going to have to make some shots. And I think the Magic will probably be hunting for some shooting perpetually. And it could be one of the big things they hunt at the deadline. Of course, a big piece of this is 2 of the shooters that the Magic acquired in the offseason are not shooting at the levels they're expected to. Desmond Bane is shooting a career-worst 33.3% from 3. It's been better. It's been getting better. He'll probably end up in the high 30s by the end of the season, but that'll be the worst in a couple years for him. He's only taking 4.9 three-point attempts per game, and I think the hope is that with Paolo Banchero back, Desmond Bane will get over 5 and get closer to 6 attempts per game. Jalen Suggs already taken a lot of threes, but we'll get to him. Tyus Jones, who the Magic signed to help with the team shooting, is only 8 for 34 this season, 23.5%. We'll put a pin in that. We'll get back to it. The Magic are seeing improved shooting. Wendell Carter's at 42.4%. Tristan da Silva's at 38.6%. Anthony Black's at 33.8%. Franz Wagner's at 34.4%. Jalen Suggs has been way up and down. But for the last 3 games, the Magic have looked more like the team from last year. 23 for 90 from 3 in their last 3 games at 25.6%. That's not even half the problem. According to data from Synergy Sports, the Magic are 29th in the league with just 41.5 jump shots per game. So that could be anywhere. That could be 3-pointers. That could be mid-range. That could be short jumpers in the paint. 41.5 jump shots per game. Only the Detroit Pistons take fewer. Not the end of the world that you don't take a lot of jump shots. The Magic are also 29th with 0.950 points per possession on jump shots. Only the Pacers are worse. The team is also only 29th in the league, making 34.1% of those jumpers. They're only ahead of the Portland Trailblazers. 29th. Team takes few jumpers and makes few jumpers. Shooting just isn't in their formula quite yet. And so as this team continues to evolve offensively, look, they're top 10 in offense. They're clearly doing something right. As this team continues to evolve, as we look ahead to the playoffs, the Magic are going to have to start making some jumpers. The formula for Orlando's offense is simple, and this is why I stressed those numbers from Wednesday's game. They're going to score in the paint. The Magic are currently 3rd in the league with 55 points per game in the paint. The Heat are 2nd, by the way. It's going to be a huge factor in the game on Friday and Tuesday. Whoever wins the paint might win that game. They're 6th in the league with 29.5 field goal attempts per game in the restricted area, according to NBA.com's tracking stats. The Magic get to the paint. Additionally, because they're getting in the paint so much, they get to the foul line. Orlando is second in the league with a 34.4% free throw rate. That does not include tonight's games. So it does not include Thursday's games. I don't know if the Lakers just passed them after taking a season low 19 free throw attempts against the Spurs. I don't know if that's changed or not. So free throws are a big deal. The team leads the league with 30.2 free throw attempts per game. There have been some poor free throw shooting games in there, but Orlando is still ninth in the league at 80.5% shooting from the foul line. The Magic can rely on free throw shooting. Again, big reason, honestly, a huge reason why the Magic lost on Wednesday is that they took only 19 free throws. This team's used to getting 25, 30. This team's used to getting 30. So if the Magic aren't around 30 free throws, something's up, something's wrong, something's not working properly. On top of all this, the Magic have become one of the best transition teams in the league after being one of the worst transition teams last year. The Magic are sixth in the league with 23.8 transition possessions per game and fourth in the league with 1.214 points per possession. Marked improvement from last year. These numbers courtesy of Synergy Sports. Those are the pillars of the Magic offense. It's all about downhill attacking and figuring out how to get players moving toward the basket and to the rim. And if they could kick out for open threes, great. But the Magic just aren't taking a lot of jumpers. And that suits them fine. That's kind of who they are right now. But we all know the playoffs are going to are going to etch away at some of these pillars. Scoring in the paint is going to be a lot tougher in the playoffs. Getting to the foul line is going to be a lot tougher. Getting out in transition is going to be a lot tougher. And again, that's why Paolo Banchero is going to be important, because he can set up and create his own shots. He can set up and create his own jumpers out of nothing in the offense. And the Magic are going to need that to keep defenses honest. Not because that's a shot that Paolo will settle for or anything, but they need that threat. That's a threat that Franz hasn't provided. Dez has been good at it. Jalen's been okay at it. They don't really have an on-ball creator who's going to stop and pop for a jumper. That's Desmond Bane. That's Paolo Banchero. That's Jalen Suggs. That's not. I don't really think that's Franz Wagner at this point. Franz Wagner's going to get to the basket and get to the paint, get to the rim. So there's still a shooting problem to solve. And obviously, we're still a few weeks away from trade season officially opening up, and we're still 2 months away from the NBA trade deadline on February 5th. But the Magic are going to need to find some shooting relief still if they want their offense to be permanent and take that next step. Of course, some of the answers might already be on the roster. Why the Magic already have two critical rotation decisions to make, and the evidence to prove they're worth exploring a little bit more. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the games start to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. So when Jalen Suggs gets going on Friday, you know what to do. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. Keeps you locked in on every snap, every play, every drive, and every possibility. As we turn back our attention to the NBA, we got two Magic Heat lines for you, and they're kind of the same. Friday night, the Orlando Magic are favored by 5.5 points over the Miami Heat. The 242.5 line, 242.5 over under, considering how much these teams like to run and will run back and forth at each other. That wild game on opening night. Something to think about. Something a little spicy to think about. If you're looking ahead to Tuesday's game, guess what? Same deal. Magic favored by 5.5 for Tuesday's game against the Miami Heat in the NBA Cup quarterfinal. Over under of 239.5. Expecting a little bit more of a playoff atmosphere, I suppose, by chopping off 3 points. Now might be the time to lock that in, because if the Magic win by 20, I would bet that goes up a little bit. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL and NBA live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. One final segment this week as we close out a Friday episode of Locked On Magic. Philip Rossman-Reich, of course, once again. The Magic have a rotation decision to make. Obviously, Paolo Banchero is re-entering the lineup, and it's going to take some work to reintegrate him a little bit. It'll be a little bit of plug and play. Like, Paolo's good enough, and hopefully he isn't settling for jumpers. That'll be the big thing to watch with him. Like, is he attacking, getting downhill to the basket? Is he seeing the floor? Like, how quickly can he get up to speed to kind of be that pivot and that engine that the Magic need to be a successful team? If he's hanging around settling for jumpers, like, all the critics who criticize that aspect of his game, they are right. Like, those are the shots he needs to get out of his diet and kind of cut and lean up a little bit. But again, he was making this progress before. I am very confident that, maybe there'll be a couple games here early that he'll struggle with the speed and settle a little bit. But I'm very confident that Paolo is going to look like the player we all imagined he would be, the player that he was looking like before his injury, that kind of started the spark that the Magic have been on for the last 3-4 weeks. There's obviously another rotation decision to consider. And it's the one that most fans have been wanting. It's the one that most fans have been calling for and have had some legitimacy to call for. Because, I don't think Tyus Jones has played as poorly as a lot of fans think he has. The Magic aren't getting what they need from Tyus Jones. I mentioned the three-point shooting numbers. He's not making nearly enough threes. And while he knows, I think we all know his defense isn't at a Magic standard level, like, they're hiding him. He's fighting. He hasn't been put in too many compromising positions. Teams are trying to attack him just like they tried to attack who I'm going to suggest the Magic need to try out. There's no doubt that inserting Jase Richardson into the lineup on Wednesday was a turning point in that game. The Orlando Magic do not climb back into that game and have a chance to win it without Jase Richardson just introducing some energy into the game. He was a spark plug. From the moment he touched the ball for the first time, he was aggressive and under control, which is really incredible to see from a rookie, especially a rookie who's played only 12 games now and really hasn't played any meaningful minutes. The most meaningful minutes he played before Wednesday night was the garbage time against Boston when Orlando cut that deficit down to 6. And Jase Richardson was a spark there. We all know what Jase's potential offensively is. And look, I say this all the time. Coaches have more information than me. I get why they stuck with Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones is a veteran. He has 10 years of work to say he is better than what he's shown us on this team. And I get trusting that he will get there over a rookie that you don't know anything about. You don't know how he's going to react. But I've also said, while I've been a Tyus supporter and a Tyus defender, I've also said that, yes, what we saw from Jase Richardson in the preseason and what we've seen from Jase Richardson when he gets his opportunity, as limited as they've been, are enough to say this guy needs a longer look. This guy needs a little bit of run. And so whether it's picking a game and saying, Jase, this is your game, or Tyus, Jase is playing your minutes this game. He's going to get your minutes. We're going to see what he does, and we're going to get some tape on him. We're going to get, he may not play again for another couple weeks, but we're going to get some tape on him, see what he does, see what happens. Again, it's been undeniable that positive things happen when Jase is on the court. Just look, frankly, at the on-off numbers. The Orlando Magic are plus 13 points per 100 possessions with Jase Richardson on the floor with an astounding 28.6 points per 100 possessions. Now, that does include garbage time. That does include time that the game is essentially over, and that's been where a lot of Jase's minutes have been. So that is definitely a thing. However, if you take that out, if you take out those garbage time minutes, according to Data Baller, in 46 medium or high leverage minutes, the Magic have a 125.8 offensive rating with Jase on the floor with a minus 4.3 net rating. So maybe not the rosiest picture. You could say the same about Noah Penda. When Noah Penda's been on the floor in 108 minutes, Magic have a 17.6 net rating, plus 17.6 net rating, a 131.6 offensive rating, and a 114 defensive rating. Again, small sample size. Magic played 1,061 minutes. It's just a tenth of the Magic's minutes. If you take out those garbage time minutes, as I looked this up because I didn't have it ready before, if you take out those garbage time minutes, Noah Penda is plus 10, a plus 10 net rating with a 140.9 offensive rating. Scored a lot of points. Defending, not so much. But you just have to watch the games too. When you look at Penda, guys are bouncing off of him. He's making things happen. He's just providing a little bit of energy. So maybe the minutes still need to be limited. But both the Magic's rookies have earned a longer look, especially when you look at the negative impact that the Magic's two players have had. Of the Orlando Magic's rotation players this season, only two have a negative net rating. And I wouldn't even bring this topic up if it weren't for this coincidence. The Orlando Magic have a minus 5.2 net rating with Tyus Jones on the floor, a 108.1 offensive rating, a 113.3 defensive rating, and a minus 4.3 net rating with Jonathan Isaac on the floor, a 100.9 offensive rating, very, very bad, a 105.3 defensive rating, very, very good. Typical Jonathan Isaac stuff where his defense just completely outweighs his offense, but the offense is really bad. Now that's for the whole season. If we look at just the last 10 games, which obviously the Magic have played very, very well in, it's a little bit better. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's amazing. But in the last 10 games, only Tristan da Silva has a negative net rating, minus 0.3 among rotation players. Magic are plus 7.9 with Tyus Jones, 116.5 offensive rating, 108.7 defensive rating. A little bit below average on offense, but pretty solid nonetheless. And the Magic are actually plus 9.3 with Jonathan Isaac, a 108 offensive rating, 98.7 defensive rating. There's enough evidence to say that right now that like Jonathan Isaac's kind of come out when he's coming out. And again, there's enough evidence to tell you, and just watching it, you can see Tyus Jones is doing good things. Tyus Jones is not like an out and out negative. So I don't think rotation change is imminent. I sorry to disappoint everybody. Tyus Jones is probably going to play the backup point guard minutes on Friday. Like I just think that's going to be the case. But I will hold to this position, and I will continue to urge and suggest this. The Magic need to make sure these guys play. They are making too much of an impact. They are making too much progress to not get some look. And again, Steve Kerr used to do this a lot with his young players on the Warriors just to keep them ready. Every week and a half, every 2 weeks, every 5 games, every 6 games, whatever it was, he would turn to Leandro Barbosa and say, hey, you're going to sit this game. I'm going to play the young guy. And the young guy would get those minutes. Obviously, they had Steph Curry, which helps a little bit to cover mistakes. Magic starting lineup's pretty good. I think they can cover some mistakes. I think the Magic need to apply that with their rookies. And they need to keep getting opportunities to gain trust. And unseat the 2 veterans that are ahead of them. They're playing well enough to deserve that look. They're playing well enough to deserve fans saying, why aren't these guys playing? You're right. They should be playing. I get why Tyus is still playing. He's playing better. He's not hurting the team. The team is good with him on the floor right now. That lineup of Tyus Jones, Desmond Bane, Anthony Black, Jonathan Isaac, Wendell Carter, it stunk on Wednesday, but it's been very, very good throughout the season. Same thing with Jase Richardson. Jase Richardson should absolutely be playing. So find time to play them. Carve out some time. Make it a point to play them. Keep them fresh. Keep giving them opportunities. Keep giving them that chance to gain trust. Because we're a quarter of the way through the season. We are. Like, we've got a little bit of data behind us. We can kind of feel things, what things are real and what things aren't. And the Magic are going to need both those players ready to go at some point this season. They're going to get their opportunity. Again, it'll cut. It may not come at the most obvious times. It may be something that Mosley is forced to do rather than something that he works into his plans. All I'm asking for, I'm not asking for the rotation change yet. I'm not there yet. You might be there. That's fine. There's evidence to say that we should be there. I'm not there yet. I am at the point, though, where I believe Mosley needs to make it part of the plan to play these guys at some point, to have a plan to keep them playing, to keep them engaged, to keep having their impact be felt. Because the Magic have been a better team with their rookies. And again, long-term stuff, it's not always about this year with these rookies. It's about preparing them for the playoffs and preparing them. Neither of these guys are going to play in the playoffs. Let's make that clear, too. I'd be surprised if either of them have a major role in the playoffs. Tristan da Silva was great last year. Didn't play at all in the playoffs. Would not be surprised if they don't play in the playoffs. It's about having them ready for next year when they should be ready for regular roles. They look ready now. So make a plan to keep building confidence and trust in them. That's good for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Search or TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun places on the podcast to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can check us out as well on YouTube. Just search for Locked On Magic. Again, we are closing in on 5,000 subscribers, so tell your friends. They may be on the fence. They may not know about Locked On Magic. Tell your friends. Locked On Magic is the place to be for daily Orlando Magic analysis and talk. I listen. I read the comments. We'll be around. Thank you all so much for making this Locked On Magic community so great. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done making Locked On Magic your first listen of the day, go make your next listen, the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 fantasy basketball podcast, giving you daily tips and helping you win your league, all while making you a smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's all part of Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll be back again tomorrow to break down the Orlando Magic's game against the Miami Heat, the pre-tournament game, the pre-cup game. We'll see if the Magic can get a 2-0 lead on the Heat and set themselves up for a big week against some big opponents. The Knicks on Sunday, the Heat on Tuesday, and then NBA Cup, the Knicks or the Raptors later on in the week. We'll see what Magic can do with that. We'll see if Paolo Banchero returns and what he looks like in his first game in 3 weeks. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.